Oh my gosh, we're live.
Really? I don't believe you, Tom.
That was the deepest, most un-Patrick Beja like really I've ever heard you say.
I'm trying to work on it. I've got a few different ones. Here's concerned. Really? I have surprised. Really? I have sad. Really?
Oh, I feel bad already.
And, I have a few that I'm working on. So.
And then there's like very, which is the classic one.
I'm not gonna.
Not gonna take the bait. All right, fine. Let's do a podcast instead. Here we go.
When you want to support independent projects and artists and creativity, go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday. It's to be Tuesday, March 24th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Patrick Beja, as he does most Tuesdays, contributor and independent podcaster, host of Pixels, Le Rendezvous Tech, and Le Phileas Club. How's it going, Patrick?
It's going excellent. And that intro that you used for this episode, when it's not heard in twice the speed, it sounds a lot more menacing. The robot voice is really threatening.
So you're saying you usually listen to the show at 2x when you're not on the show.
Basically, yeah.
That is among a set of the very first fan-made intros that we got on the show, and I've kept it around. I've retired some of the other that user sent in because we got so many others, and but I like that one. I like that.
It's very cool. Very techy.
Yeah. Well, we are going to talk about the rumor that Facebook wants to suck up the internet and put it inside itself, but let's start off with the headlines. New York Times reports that the New York Times may be among the media sites in talks with Facebook to host content within Facebook's website. The New York Times would not comment to itself on the matter. According to several of the people briefed on the talks who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were bound by non-disclosure agreements. That's a direct quote from the New York Times story. The idea would be to improve the load time of links to news pages by not sending people away from Facebook. News sites would possibly sell ads on those pages, maybe share the revenue with Facebook. National Geographic and BuzzFeed are also apparently considering the partnership, and Huffington Post has been approached, as has Quartz.
And we have opinions on the matter that we will save for the discussion topic. Business Insider passes on a report from Adweek's Sam Thielman that Google will soon test a system to target and track TV ads on Google Fiber in Kansas City. Sponsors could deliver ads in real time and match the ad to geography, type of program, and viewing history. Viewers would have to opt out of having their viewing history used for targeting. Also, Google Fiber is coming to Salt Lake City, which will make our friend Scott Johnson happy, I think.
Yeah, unless it doesn't come to his neighborhood for some reason. Yeah, this is interesting. This is Google on the TV side of Google Fiber, not the internet side, saying we're going to deliver ads on the fly as people are watching. And if I read it right, even if you're watching a show on a DVR, when it gets to that local spot, Google would deliver that ad on the fly. So it would be targeted and relevant to you at the time you're viewing. This has the potential to really shake up the ad market on the television side.
So I'm guessing they would do this in cooperation with the channels actually broadcasting and not replace the ads that have been broadcasted. Right.
It's generally the practice in the United States, if you're a cable company, to reserve a few spots per hour on every channel for your own selling. And a lot of times there's revenue share with the channels themselves. But that's how HBO gets all of its promotion. Is the cable companies run ads for HBO. In fact, Tech TV, when I worked back at Tech TV, we would get a lot of our ads on DirecTV through a partnership with DirecTV, running them on other channels in what are called the avails slot.
Does that sully a little bit the shine of Google Fiber when they're putting in the ads and the tracking and the invasion of your life?
If Google hasn't sullied you already, I'm not sure that this really makes it any worse. But it certainly is in that if you're thinking of Google that way, this is not going to help. That's for sure. I also don't like that you have to opt out. I get why they're doing it that way, but I never like an opt out. I always like an opt in.
No one would ever opt in.
Yeah. Tom's Hardware reports Logitech has replaced the venerable Performance Mouse MX, my favorite wireless mouse, with the MX Master. The MX Master is slightly larger, but a little lighter than its predecessor. It sports 5 buttons instead of 9, adds a gesture button, and features a thumb wheel on the left side. The mouse comes with a USB dongle, but does support Bluetooth for up to 3 devices. MX Master uses Logitech's dark field laser sensor for use on glassy surfaces, and adjustable DPI setting from 400 to 600 DPI in 200 DPI increments. MX Master's coming in April for $99.
From 400 to 1600. I think you said 600.
Did I say 6? Thank you for catching that. 400 to 1600. Yeah, don't panic. You're like, I only get 600 DPI? What's wrong with you people?
Yeah, I've had a Performance MX. I guess most people have if they're interested in mice.
Got one right over there.
CNET reports that a software update to Amazon's Fire TV and Fire TV Stick will make it easier to sign in to things like hotel Wi-Fi that usually require a browser. The update also adds support for USB-connected storage, compatibility with Bluetooth headphones, as well as shortcuts to sleep, display mirroring, and Prime Music playlists. The update will roll out over the next few weeks to all countries where the stick is available.
So you can throw the Fire TV stick in your bag, take it to the hotel, and we'll see how well it works when this update finally shows up. But the idea is you would be able to easily log on to the hotel Wi-Fi with whatever your hotel Wi-Fi code is and watch whatever you want over the hotel Wi-Fi. Hotels are not going to like this, though. That's the thing.
Probably, but do you think people actually take their Fire TV stick? And I mean, if you're traveling, you have a laptop. I guess maybe it's nicer.
I know people who take routers with them simply so that they can then plug in the Ethernet port from their hotel into it and have Wi-Fi so they can use a Chromecast or an Apple TV.
Okay, so I guess some people do.
Not that I don't know how many, but I know at least one. The Verge reports Kyle Flug, Microsoft's Project Spartan program manager, wrote on the IE blog that the new browser Project Spartan will be the exclusive browser engine on Windows 10. Internet Explorer 11 will remain fundamentally unchanged from Windows 8.1 and continue to host as a legacy engine exclusively. Those are his words. So long, IE. I guess the IE blog is going to have to become the Project Spartan blog or whatever they end up calling Project Spartan. But they're making it clear that they're not going to have 2 engines running. IE11 will be, or I'm sorry, yeah, IE11 will be there simply for those who want it. And it sounds like they might even only make it available in the Enterprise editions or by request. We'll see if it even shows up in the Consumer edition.
That's probably a good move. I'm wondering if they couldn't just. I guess if it's only in one, the Enterprise Edition or by request, essentially they're really killing it. It's not like they have both and you use which one you want, whichever one you want. So, yeah, efficient. I like it.
By the way, Big Jim in the chat room just raised his hand, says, yep, I take a router to a hotel to use Chromecast. He wasn't the person I was thinking of when I said that, but there's another one.
So there's 2, at least 2.
Let's take a look at some of the news from you in our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. I use this as one of the many signals to figure out what folks in the audience are interested in. I realize not everybody in the audience uses the subreddit, but it is one way for me to take the temperature, especially if I'm on the border with a story. If it gets a lot of votes in the subreddit, you know what? That's going to make a difference to me. Both Castro425 and JohnZ776 noted stories on the first 2 lawsuits against the U.S. FCC's open internet order. The Verge reports industry group U.S. Telecom filed suit in Washington, D.C. Now, they are challenging the Title II classification as being not legally sustainable. U.S. Telecom said they do not have an issue with the actual rules themselves, just the legal basis for them. Meanwhile, Texas ISP Alamo Broadband filed suit in New Orleans, claiming the new rules themselves caused their business harm. The FCC believes both suits will be dismissed. The new rules have been made public, but they have not been published by the Federal Register and will not actually go into effect until 60 days after that publication. U.S. Telecom says, yeah, we knew that. We just wanted to make sure we got in early on this. My guess, Patrick, is both of these suits, especially the U.S. Telecom, are attempts to force the FCC to make some moves so they can prepare, even if these get dismissed, for follow-on lawsuits once the rules are published.
I'm going to restrain from saying anything because I would not stop. Starfuryzeta sent us the IT World report that Microsoft will have 8K video compatibility in Windows 10 for displays larger than 27 inches. Windows 10 will also support 4K resolution on PCs with screen sizes of 8 inches or higher, and on small screen tablets and smartphones with screen sizes of 6 inches and higher. The OS will support 4K video codec HEVC, or high efficiency video codec, also known as H.265.
Or delivered through H.265, I guess we should have said. Yeah, this is interesting. 8K already, I mean, 4K has been in Windows longer than there have been 4K TVs as well. But that's that to me is a good sign that we're moving toward. I'm much more excited about 8K than 4K. I don't even know why. It's almost irrational. It's just knowing that it's already been out there and displayed. I'm like, why wait? Why wait for 4K? Let's just
give it to me now.
If 4K isn't that much better than 1080p, I just wanted to leap right to 8K then.
There's a whole conversation to be had there about which one is better, but and if you can actually sense visually
when it's actually worth having the difference, right? When you could actually see the difference, for sure.
Yeah, but the fact that Microsoft is having 8K from the get-go is good because it's coming out soonish, and I think within the lifetime of Windows 10, 8K is going to become commonplace. Now, keep in mind, Windows 10 is going to be around for a long time, so everyone will have access to it. I'm more intrigued by how they handle those very high resolution screens, because my memory, from what I remember, it wasn't handled super well initially in Windows 7, maybe even 8. So.
And I think the other part of this story that's probably easily overlooked is using HEVC is going to help maybe corral people towards standardizing on that for 4K.
Yeah.
So and that has been a debate, as well as getting everybody to agree to use the same codec. The Corley posted the Ars Technica report that a U.S. District Court Judge Vernon Broderick has ruled against China's Fantago software, ordering its domain names to be seized, its social media accounts to be blocked, and payment processes to be cut off. Decryption licensing body AACS brought legal action against the company over the sale of DVD ripping software, which violates the DMCA. Fantago claimed it had stopped selling the software in the United States, and the court had no jurisdiction outside of the United States. However, the U.S. judge noted that the tools were still available for purchase in the United States, and Fantago's explanations as to why that was were not credible. It is doubtful whether all the domain names will go down. Some of them are registered in places like Japan, Germany, and particularly China, which may or may not obey an order from a U.S. court.
Captain Kipper noted the Verge story about Twitch's decision to reset user passwords, stream keys, and YouTube and Twitter connections after the discovery of unauthorized access to some user account information. In an email to affected users, Twitch wrote the compromised information possibly included username, email address, password, which was cryptographically protected, the last IP address you logged in from, and first and last name, phone number, address, and date of birth. So basically everything.
Yeah, unless you didn't give them that information about the address and stuff. Obviously, they can't take it if you never gave it Twitch. But wow. Big. And they just say cryptographically protected in the email I got. I don't know what that means. Did they hash it? Did they salt it? What'd they hash it with? Very curious about this, but I did change my password already. Did you?
Oh, yeah, of course. Whenever this kind of story breaks, I immediately go and change the password. But it's kind of interesting that they're not getting as much flack as, another company. I mean, it seems to me that people aren't even pressing the issue. They're not asking, well, how was the password protected?
I hadn't even thought about that.
How did you lose that data? Like, were you broken into? Well, no one cares, apparently. It's very, very strange.
I've definitely seen people who care, but you're right. It is not the outrage that we would normally see if this had happened 2 or 3 years ago. Are we experiencing hack fatigue? Where we just expect this to happen? We're like, oh, yeah, all right.
There's probably a little bit of that. I also think that Twitch is kind of the geek nerd community's darling at the moment, and we're not as outraged because the biggest thing is we don't know how the hack happened. We don't know if they had, it might have been a failure on their part, and we're not even pressing it. So I'm thinking some of it has to do with our feelings towards Twitch as well. But
what about
curious.
Amazon? Don't forget Amazon owns Twitch. Everybody kind of freaked out when Amazon bought Twitch, and everybody sort of forgot that Amazon owns Twitch because Amazon has done what they normally do and just leave these properties alone. But if you want to get out, don't get outraged.
I think we should all blame Amazon.
Yeah,
Come on.
I know. I realized what I was about to do there. I'm like, no, that's not a good idea. It's because it isn't, in fact, Amazon's fault. We don't even know if it's Twitch's fault, except in so much as ever getting hacked by anybody.
Well, Tom, we don't know that it isn't Amazon.
No, we don't. That is the part that, going right back to the beginning of this discussion, I am waiting for more details on this. I'm like, okay, cryptographically protected. I mean, I guess they did the right thing and reset everybody's password automatically. So it kind of doesn't matter if they're cryptographically protected unless you use the same password at every website, which you shouldn't do. So don't do that. But I'm still waiting for more details. doorsrio sent us the story from NDTV that India's Supreme Court struck down Section 66A of the Information Technology Act, finding it vague and unconstitutional. Section 66A read, and I'm going to quote it because you've got to hear it. This is what the actual law said. Any person who sends by any means of a computer resource any information that is grossly offensive or has a menacing character, or any information which he knows to be false, but for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 years and with fine. So in other words, while this law was active, if you annoyed someone and you meant to annoy them, you could go to jail for 3 years, possibly. Section 66A is part of the larger Section 66 in the IT Act, which deals with computer-related offenses. It was amended to the IT Act in 2008. But the two-person Supreme Court panel said, nope, this is not okay. This is a break on criticism of government and free discussion, et cetera.
Yeah, it is kind of a mind-blowingly broad law. And a couple of things. First of all, when you said NVIDIA, NDTV, that India's Supreme Court, I sort of read NVIDIA's Supreme Court.
As if the graphics card company had its own court system. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is like, it's not even that you actually annoyed someone, it's that if you send a text message with the intention of annoying someone, it's already enough. Even if they're not annoyed. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
And this was used in some cases that were controversial, particularly with some grad students criticizing the government. Some politicians were trying to make use of this on campaigns. So I think it is probably a good decision that this happened.
Certainly sounds like it. Captain Kipper sent the news that Pixar's professional rendering software called RenderMan is now, I have a weird accent here. I'm trying to sound American, maybe I shouldn't. The rendering software called RenderMan is now free for all non-commercial purposes, including evaluations, education, research, and personal project. The non-commercial version of RenderMan is fully functional without watermark or limitation.
I wasn't listening close enough. I didn't notice your walk-in here American accent.
I'm walking here.
I was just thinking about Slenderman and RenderMan.
RenderMan is super popular. I have a couple of friends who are graphic designers. 3D artists, and RenderMan. It's really interesting that they're sort of saying, you know what? This seems like the move that a lot of software companies have been making. It's you can't compete with free, and everyone is pirating everything anyway. So you know what? As long as you don't have to pay, just do it, and you'll use ours instead of Autodesk's, world-devouring software suits.
And that is a look at the headlines. All right, let's talk about Facebook devouring the world. Chris Cox, Chief Product Officer, says that's not what they want to do. We often hear, and I think I've even said it before myself, that Facebook wants to eat the internet, or they want to create a walled garden like AOL back in the day.
I think you said it at the beginning of the show, actually.
I probably did, yeah. Chris Cox said at Code Media, Recode reported this again today to remind us, we don't want to devour and suck in the internet. It's not what people are asking for. So keep that in mind. Facebook doesn't win by bringing the internet inside of itself. It's actually too costly and it reduces competition. They have a vested interest in newspapers continuing to be able to make money to report news that then can be shown to Facebook users, right? So keep that in mind in this discussion. Here is what Ravi Somaya, Mike Isaac, and Vindu Goel have reported at the New York Times. And consumers took some jokes, and I did too earlier, about how the New York Times is reporting on itself. But in fact, that to me is a commendation to these three reporters, because as I was reading this article, I forgot I was reading it on the New York Times. They did a great job on it. Here's what Facebook gets in these proposed deals. Faster load times, because they're loading them from within, and Facebook says they have some technology to make the pages load faster, which keeps users satisfied. If users click on something, it takes a long time to load, they're as likely to blame Facebook for that as the New York Times or anybody else, because users don't think about it that hard. Facebook could get some ad dollars out of this. They could get some stickiness out of this because it keeps people inside of Facebook. And obviously, they're going to get user data out of this if it happens within Facebook. Media sites have something to gain. They could get some ad dollars, although the New York Times story says that they're talking about a limited number of ads. It could reduce some infrastructure costs, possibly by taking some load off if enough people started using it. What the media sites are likely to lose is traffic to their main site, data on the visitors, which Facebook may or may not share with them, and a subscription driver if it's a subscription site. Not a big deal for BuzzFeed, but for the New York Times, which has a paywall of sorts, putting content on Facebook for free really isn't as effective a driver to the subscription necessarily as having that paywall pop up when you're at the New York Times. So when Patrick and I were talking about this earlier today, I definitely had my knee-jerk reaction of, oh, well, this is the cycle. Everybody pulls things into walled gardens, and then it always gets pulled back out because the wider world of the web wins. I have actually changed that perspective in looking at this story and reading about it today. But Patrick, are you still in the position you were in when we talked earlier, and what was that?
So I was looking at it more from the side of the content creators, and maybe my opinion is colored through the lenses of being an independent content creator myself, and the experience I've had with people doing content on YouTube and other proprietary platforms. I think we've seen that one of the other things the media sites are losing if they do this is a certain level of ownership of their own content, and I honestly think that's a problem. And they're also losing a larger amount of control over their content. And I'm not talking about the data on visitors and all of that. I'm really talking about when you're putting all of your, well, maybe not all, but even a portion of your content on someone else's service, as we've seen with Twitter in the first few years of its life and other platforms, it becomes you're at the mercy of that platform. And it seems like in this case, they're not, the media sites are not going to be putting all of their content on there. But even if they do a little bit, there is a real danger that people start, automatically through force of habit, reading stuff that is formatted in the way that shows you it's on Facebook. And if it's an outside link, then you don't necessarily bother. It might be a slightly extreme view on things, but even on Twitter, when you have the embedded image, we see it on the data. People look at it and click on it and interact with it a lot more than if they just have a link and maybe a couple of sentences and have to click out. So this was my initial reaction, and I can see how it would be a positive in the ways you've described, but that aspect of it, the loss of control and ownership, concerns me a lot more.
And I would agree with you. I still agree with you. I would have agreed with you 100% and just said, yes, but eventually people will realize that, having a walled garden isn't the best thing. And obviously Facebook doesn't want the news sites to be undermined, so they won't overstep, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are natural counter forces to this getting out of hand, would have been my response. But the more I read up on this, and especially reading the Recode story about Jonah Peretti and what he has said about BuzzFeed, it made me realize I was making a fundamental mistaken assumption, which is that the newspaper is the newspaper's website. The website is just one place to get the newspaper. And what BuzzFeed does is something I actually try to do with the Daily Tech News Show, which is say the content is on the internet. We don't care where you get it. I don't mind if my show is accessed through iTunes or Pocket Casts or archive.org or wherever. I just want you to listen to it. And BuzzFeed has been taking that approach from the beginning, saying, obviously if people come to BuzzFeed, we're going to try to maximize that and monetize that, but we're going to try to monetize our content wherever it goes. And having it on Facebook in that philosophy is a big plus. Say, yeah, you'll serve it for us and you'll put our ad in there for us and then we'll do a little revenue share. Heck yeah, we don't care. I think the mistake, and where I still agree with everything you said, Patrick, is if you were to only do that. If you were to be the New York Times and say, we're going to have a paywall that you have to get through on the web and we're going to protect our content, but we're going to give it to Facebook. I think that's where it's a mistake. If you're taking the BuzzFeed approach, which is like, sure, we're going to have it on Facebook, and we're going to have it on Twitter, and we're going to have it on RSS, and we're going to have it in the Internet of Things. We're going to, whatever we can come up with, wherever we can put it, we're going to put it there and then figure out how that fits in our business model. That's the way you have to do it because that's the way the Internet works.
I think that's certainly a valid view on... I think it's a valid view, but I also wonder if it isn't limited to some types of content/enterprises. Yourself and BuzzFeed have in common, in my opinion, you have in common the fact that you have relatively low overhead. You have relatively
I thought you were going to say listicles, because I don't do those.
Well, so that's essentially it. That's kind of what we all have in common with BuzzFeed. They create low-cost, high shareability content, and they can make money from, it doesn't matter if some of their content is distributed wherever, because as long as some of the views and monetization comes back to them, they're okay. And in our cases, we have production costs that are very far from that of radio stations or TV stations. The question of larger operations like newspapers and such, I think it frames the question differently, because they can't afford to just not monetize or not have control over a large amount of the way the viewers consume their content. Now, we've had that discussion a few times, and maybe it means that actually the way those enterprises are handling their business is not valid anymore in the new world of the internet. But it still means that the way they operate currently, I don't think is your reasoning, which is sound for BuzzFeed and yourself. I'm not sure it applies as well to those sites and media.
And I would say then those sites and media need to change how they do things to fit into this new world. The downside, the immediate objection to that is, yes, Tom, but we need these kinds of sites to do long-form investigative journalism. I don't think those two things are necessarily as related as people think. BuzzFeed is doing long-form investigative journalism. Yes, they also do the listicles and all of that sort of thing, but they do long pieces. If you go to the BuzzFeed news section, you're going to see stories on Boko Haram, Obama announcing a halt to Afghanistan troop withdrawal, German high school students thought to be among the victims of the Germanwings crash. This is news. This is exactly news, and this is original reporting, not just blog reposting that they are doing at BuzzFeed. And they are saying the same thing about these kinds of articles as they are about the listicles, which is we will monetize them wherever they go. And so if you're saying, no, we can only monetize them at our site, I think that's the mistake.
Yeah, it's definitely, this is something that is the example of BuzzFeed that started as an exclusively, well, buzzy and shareable and lolcatty, and they even have the stamps or labels that are very meme-like, and they actually started doing very impressive long-form reporting, or at least reporting, which means, I'm guessing, if BuzzFeed is doing it, it means it's profitable in some way. It's not just because they want to have, a good conscience and offset the funny meme-ridden portion of the site. So yeah, there probably is something in the middle somewhere. I'm still not sure about. It has to do with being in the middle, because the example that we have with YouTube, where you are entirely at the mercy of YouTube because it's become so prevalent, there is a real danger of that happening with Facebook as well. And maybe the way to approach that for large media sites is to get into that game and then make it so people actually get intrigued, because the internet is open and you have access to the web no matter what, and the web is incredibly resilient, even when faced with apps and closed systems like those. You get into that game and you get people interested, and you benefit from that shareability and that BuzzFeed and Tom Merritt philosophy. As a whole, on the whole, you end up benefiting from it, and maybe that's what people, those companies are going to do.
I think those are 5 reasons why you should fear Facebook and embrace them at the same time, and you won't believe number 3.
How long have you been thinking of that one?
I've been revising it throughout the conversation. Let's put it that way. All right, our pick of the day comes from Mark, in not surprisingly in Detroit, Michigan, who says, hey, in these taxing times, citizens of many countries might have to keep track of their mileage, and there's a pretty slick app available on iOS and Android that helps one track automobile expenses, either by mileage with GPS or actual expenses. It's called TripLog. The results can be synced to the cloud, and it produces some nice reports for your accountant. Mark likes it. I've never tried it, but if you want to go investigate it, look at triplogmileage.com. Thank you, Mark, for sending in the pick. Appreciate that. I actually did a 5 apps of mileage, not mileage, but of expense tracking for Tech Republic as well. So you might want to look that up at techrepublic.com. Thank you, folks, for sending in your picks. Keep them coming. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Got one message of the day from James, the aircraft mechanic in Rainy Lake Charles, Louisiana, who says, I've been listening to Tom break down tech news for right around 8 years, and I think this is the first time I've written in. Thank James for taking the time. I hope, what did I do? He says, I think varying the visual makeup of security warnings is a horrible idea. Yes, people take them less seriously when they see them a lot, but I have encountered several successful phishing scams that used pop-ups disguised as security warnings. If people can be fooled by these when they look passably similar to their existing warnings, what is the click-through rate going to be when they don't know what an actual warning should look like? I just think sometimes complacency is an acceptable risk. That is a very good insight, because what those malware pop-ups do is use polymorphism to get your attention and make you pay attention and then think it's a real thing. Is there a risk if you make security warnings variable that they will somehow make the malware more effective, do you think?
But wouldn't the malware pop-ups disguise themselves as the accepted standard of warning label anyway?
Well, the story yesterday was that people ignore those warnings. So what I think is true that James is pointing out is malware will change it a little. So they look similar, but they're different enough that they get your attention. And if there are multiple ways they could look, then it kind of makes their job easier because there's not one standard way you're used to.
Well, I don't know, because if there's one standard way, they can just do it like that, and it's not like if there are a million ways, then you don't look at anything anyway, and those you don't see them either. The pop-ups that are different, because everything is different. I don't know. I'm not sure it it changes the attention you're going to give pop-ups or malware pop-ups if they are all different.
I still think. I think James made a really good point that's worth considering. I still think the polymorphic security pop-ups are probably better because what those other malware security pop-ups also have is they're out of context. And if you are paying attention at all, you realize there shouldn't be a pop-up right now. And the wording on them is usually weird also. So there are other ways to identify them.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a fair point that should be taken into account in the design. Certainly.
Maybe. I'm not convinced. It could warrant more discussion.
Well, that's what we're here for. More discussion. Thank you, folks, for being along with us for it. Thank you, Patrick Beja. And you discuss other things on other podcasts as well. Where can folks find those?
I do, and people can find those at FrenchSpin.com. The latest one we recorded yesterday with Tim Stevens. And we discussed video games. And if you want to hear a little bit more about the Nintendo announcement from last week, or, for example, the very strange thing that happened between Konami and Hideo Kojima, the genius creator of the Metal Gear series, who was unceremoniously removed from all of their marketing material everywhere last week, and get an analysis, sort of putting in context of all of this and understand it, you can go to FrenchSpin.com and listen to Pixels, which is my video game news gaming show of games. It was released yesterday, and it's still very fresh with Tim Stevens, as I was saying.
And follow Patrick on Twitter, twitter.com/notpatrick. It makes sense if you think about it. We are getting closer and closer. I know it's been a long time since we set the $16,000 a month goal to get Scott Johnson and Veronica Belmont on the show, but we're really close to 15,000, which is more than halfway. Thank you to all of the folks out there who have signed up to back us on Patreon, patreon.com/acedetect. You guys are amazing. It blows me away that you're continuing to want to support the show and even wanting to support the show in greater numbers. So if you have been thinking about doing it, please do. Patreon.com/acedetect. And if you can't do it at Patreon, totally fine. Check out dailytechnewsshow.com/support for all the different ways to support the show, even just telling people about the show. The way I got into podcasting was a show called Buzz Out Loud at CNET, and it started almost 10 years ago. In fact, March 30th, 2005. We are going to reunify the cast of Buzz Out Loud this Sunday, and we need your voicemails. If you were a citizen of Buzztown who's been following me around and still listening to this show, and you want to tell us what you've been up to since the show went off the air, call our Daily Tech News Show number and leave us a voicemail. It's 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. The show airs at 12:30 Pacific on Sunday, March 29th. We'll have it on YouTube, on diamondclub.tv and Alpha Geek Radio, and at Hack5, because Hack5's hosting us, hak5.org. So send us some voicemails by Saturday, all right? Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, that number, 512-59-DAILY. Listen to the show live at tunein.alphageekradio.com and visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow or 2 days from now because it's Peter Wells of Reckoner, Australia. Depends on what side of the date line you're on. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Done.
Sorry to sneak that one in on you, but I forgot that I meant to do that.
No problem.
Meant to do what?
Figured you could handle the last.
The last what? What happened?
Oh,
The
the
what?
Buzz Out Loud thing at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Roger. I'm getting to you. Back to me.
You're still muted. You've muted yourself.
How's
Now
that?
you've done it to yourself. That's better. I can hear you. Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, 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 bum.
Sometimes. Oh, that's not right. sometimes Finder doesn't want to show me the WAV file right after I finish.
All right, we're still an hour early here until Sunday, so I'm starving.
Okay.
I'm gonna go eat.
Go have some food. Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, chat room. See you soon. Bye.
Goodbye. So our titles for today are on showbot.tv. Whoa, it's a tight race. I don't hear anyone. I don't hear you, Jenny. Oh, I hear Roger, but I don't hear Jenny. There we go. Now I hear you.
The icicle, the blue icicle does not like gravity. And I just realized why recently. Is because it's really meant to go like this. Right?
Also, it's broken.
Also, it's broken.
It's not meant to go like that.
No, I got a new one that's not broken, but it did occur to me when I was at my dad's and I did it this way that it's really just meant to be on a low-hanging mic, not a high-hanging mic. So there, I don't know. Maybe that's better.
It looks cooler.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Although because you've got a high, you got to tilt it.
All right.
Because it's
like
not
that.
a side address.
Like that?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, now it doesn't work again.
See? Yeah. All right. I should really do these things not in the middle of the show.
The other thing is... You go ahead, Roger.
Oh, no, you go first.
No, because I think you were going to say what I was going to say.
I would just say just get a extension cable, XLR extension cable for the mic into your adapter instead of plugging the adapter directly into the mic.
Fair enough. But that would require me buying more things.
I'm sorry.
I bought so many things. There have been so many things purchased for this podcast that I have to take a break on buying things.
So long, and thanks for all the bugs. Fast times on Facebook side.
I liked now 8K, next 12K. Just to really...
All right, I just bought you an XLR cable.
Aww. Thank you.
Although I'm having it shipped to me, so I'll have to get it too.
Okay.
But
well, I will see you sometime in this week.
Yeah, exactly.
How about them apples?
From the walled garden of links. Thank you, Beatmaster.
Like
all right, so title, you were saying.
I like the walled garden of links.
No, he's just sending me the links in a pastebin. That's.
I kind of like that, the walled garden of links.
Yeah, it does sort of work.
Like a Rothfuss short story or something.
Quoth stood at the foot of the walled garden of links.
That's what I'm saying. I do like what the New York Times did with their content will amaze you, although it's not quite on, it's like saying that it's BuzzFeed, which it's not quite. I like
Fast times on Facebook's side. We never talked about it in the show, though.
I do like the IE Master Chief Edition for the subtle linking of different things.
So long and thanks for all the bugs. Aww. For IE. Facebook, enjoy the garden. Very, very inside baseball for Night Attack. Facebook Times.
Yeah. You didn't see that?
Yeah. I would just do the Facebook Times, right?
No, because it's like Fast Times.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say it's a joke on the fact that it's the New York Times and also it used to be called the Facebook.
Ah. But then you lose the Fast Times thing.
That's true. That's a fair point. Drop the.
It's Facebook Times at BuzzFeed's.
BuzzFeed High. It's Facebook Times at BuzzFeed High.
That didn't really work.
What else? What else?
Oh, I didn't do any of that? No. I know I did. Oh, yeah. No, I did. There we go. I thought I didn't put the YouTube embed links in there for a second, but I did. All right. Now I am exporting. This is how a podcast is made.
Slowly with
sigh.
care. Age to perfection.
Yes. Artisan podcasting at its finest. Our
Small batch artisan
hand-tooled.
podcasting.
Yeah.
They should totally have that.
Our hand-tooled small batch podcasts are made from downstairs in a small cottage in Los Angeles, California.
We only source the best, cleanest electricity from the most sustainable sources to power everything.
Guarded by Django and Sawyer, our two dogs, our podcast farm uses only organic materials, except for all of the rare earth metals and all of the equipment down here.
Hey, I know where you can find some rare earth metals.
Wink, wink.
You know, there are some advantages for picking stories for the morning stream, I'll tell you.
Oh, I don't know if you saw, but as soon as I saw that story, I tweeted it to Scott Johnson.
Yeah.
I was like, this is all you, buddy.
I put it under the headline in the story pool of This Day in Poop. Because they're like, I have not done my job if I cannot at least offer up one story about
I would imagine that's a job requirement for Scott.
Yeah.
He's like, look, all I ask is one a day. Like,
just one a day.
Just at the same time, if possible. Like, just I just want it to be regular.
Just want it to be just want it to be regular.
Facebook Times Showbot Reminder is the title.
Woot woot.
At BuzzFeed High. Not at BuzzFeed High. Not just Facebook Times.
Just a doodly, doodly, do, 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 do. Woo. Tom, how fast do you have to get off of this and go do the other thing?
Why?
I know I have like 5 questions about the BOL reunion that would be so awesome to get answered.
Yeah, I can do that.
Before you have to go run off. Okay.
Are there any you can ask publicly? Or are they all
I think
secrets?
so. No, I don't think so. I think they're really simple. Like, I made you a show doc that you should feel free to.
Right, saw that.
Okay, good. I'm putting Dropbox links in next to the clips, but if you want to make an official Dropbox folder for that, you could just take the clips that I put in and move them.
Okay.
So, like,
that works.
And then I'm just gonna leave like where things go and like the because like you're gonna do those sort of look back at the tech things interspersed throughout, and I will just leave that to you to put in and add.
Okay.
And later this week we can talk about the fine tuning of like the open and how you want to do that.
Oh yeah, we need the music.
Yeah, I mean I have.
Do you have a clean copy?
No, that's a good question. Let me go hunting around in the wiki for it.
I probably have it. Yeah, it'll be on the wiki. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there's a link to it on the wiki.
Yeah. And then intro theme music. I'm just adding that. Let's see what else. I was going to say, if you, and I put this in the thing, but if you want to at some point later today or whenever tweet out, like officially with the BOL hashtag, that's the number for voicemails.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I think in my life, I don't have time to go track everybody down by the traditional methods that I use. So Twitter is probably our best bet at this point to get everybody to like.
Oh, you're going to have
like,
Veronica and Molly do the same thing?
Exactly, yeah.
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 That makes sense. Okay.
So, and then that way, like just say, and we can even just start naming the people that we're specifically looking for if we want, like direct it to them, but it would just be good that it's out there. So those are my immediate content-based things. And and the other thing I was talking to Molly about, and I'll tell you as well, is you guys have to pick the stuff, the nostalgia stuff, the look back stuff of all the things that like Jeannie sent that you want in, because there's no way I'll be able to make that judgment correctly.
Can you put them all in one doc for us?
Yeah, that I can
And
do.
then we can go through and
Yeah,
pull them out.
I think that's a good way to do
I mean,
it.
if we want to be true to the spirit of Buzz Out Loud, we'll sit down an hour before the show
Yeah, that's what I figured.
and
I
decide
just
all
want
of
to make
this.
sure. I want to
But-
make sure that you have what you need to do that.
we
an hour
shouldn't
before the
do
show.
that. We should do what
Yeah.
you're saying instead.
Yeah.
Which is good. So if you put them together in one doc and point us to it, then I think then it should be
Great.
really easy for us
Right.
to go.
I just
yeah,
like
that one,
I
that
can
one,
be
that one.
your editorial compiler.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like that.
Oh, right. And that means I'm out of the post.
Ooh, allow me to go get the show notes.
Don't you forget about me.
Doot, doot, doot.